What's up? It's Luke from the New Zealand hardcore band Xile, and I'm going to tell you why the Kemper Powered Rack is one of the coolest units, and why I'm saying goodbye to it to pick up the new Kemper Player. Let's get into it. Saying goodbye to the Kemper Powered Rack. Now these are great. We've actually had 3 of these for the last 5 years, so 1 each for the 2 guitarists and 1 for the bassist. And they have gone hard, to be honest. I mean, they power cabs, they can even power enough stage sound for a bass 8x10. It's got a 600 watt solid state in here. And I remember seeing these about maybe like 6 years ago. On the 2018, we did a tour with Alpha Wolf. They all had them, and then not long after, we went on a big run with Viator's Murder through Australia, and they had a full tower of them. And it seemed like every band on the tour was running one of these Kempers. So I decided to pick one up, and it didn't disappoint since. Really cool for, if you're considering this, really cool for a live band. So if you play, so all those bands I was just talking about were playing without cabs on stage and with in-ear monitors, so they had unpowered versions of these. And when I found out that there was powered versions of them, I said, hey, this could be a really great thing for the band, because while we were thinking about having in-ears, we could also play with these on a live stage and then crank those cabs up. And then since then, we've actually built an in-ear rig, and our current stage setup, which if you want to check out below, I did a rig rundown of, we run powered cabs if we can, and in-ear monitors too. So really cool. Like I said, 600 watt solid state power amp over in this one. It's plenty enough to power guitar cabs, and it'll even run an 8x10 bass cab for enough stage sound. So I've taken on a couple weekenders playing for Antagonist, playing bass on this too, and it works perfectly. And I mean, bass goes to the front of house anyway. So, but I do remember on the 8x10, it did give me enough grunt to hear myself on stage. But if you're thinking about this for a guitarist, then this is more than enough, A couple of things I really liked about this: they're super light. 19-inch long for a rack. They come in like a toaster version. Never messed around with those, but seen plenty of those around on tour. Maybe that was actually one of the first things I saw, actually, was one of the toasters at an old Unify. I think Lockie from Make Them Suffer had one. It's maybe the first one I ever saw, and they called it the toaster. I thought it was real funny. But real cool thing about these is that they're small and light. So this is 5.2 kgs. This is with the power amp version too. So if you pick up the one without the power amp, it's lighter. You can see it's not even very deep too. So I think it's about 8 inches deep and 5 kgs. Some other really cool things about this is that it is a one-stop shop. So you've got everything here. You've got your tones, you've got your outputs on the back, you've got multiple outputs on the back. They've got XLRs, TRS. You can use this thing as an interface, which I use quite often. You can have it set up in your studio. So if you want to output one clean tone out of the output and then your distorted tones, so you can track to it, you can do that too. What else do I use this for? On my desk, I've actually got it set up so I can either jam with headphones, got a headphone input on the front over here, and I can also plug it into my little 5151 speaker over here, which I've done many times, and I crank that up and have like a solid jam, and I test the tones too. So with the Kemper as well, you've got cab simulations. So on the back, it's got multiple outputs, and you can configure those in a whole lot of different ways. So one of the cool things about this is that you can set up one of the outputs to go to front of house with a cab simulation, one of the outputs to go to your in-ear monitor rig with cab simulation, and then you can send your speaker output to the cabinet without the speaker. Obviously you wouldn't put the speaker emulation out to the cabinet, so that one there doesn't have it on it either. But if you got the unpowered version of this, and say you're using like a Seymour Duncan Power Stage 170, then you'd use one of these. You could configure one of the outputs on this to have not the cab emulation on that, and then your little pedal. So I've used it for all sorts. Filming the Xile I'm Your God album, we use this in the studio to track the dry guitars. So we actually pass the guitar through this, so we could monitor it with the tone and then send the dry signal out to the DAW to record it. It's a really jack of all trades kind of box. So I never used the profiling function. I always brought the tones. So I'd grab some tones from someone that I liked, or my friends would hook me up with tones. Specifically for Xile, we'd use all the Lance Prince tones that he used on the albums that he mixes and masters for us. I'll put a link down below. He makes the best stuff. Another thing that works really well on the Kemper rack is actually the tuner. It's a little bubble tuner. It's one of the first settings on the little dial over here. So when I have this set up on my desk, just racked when it's not, when we're not playing shows, I put it up on my desk and it works really good. And that means I can just turn it on and I've got a tuner, and then I switch over, boom, I've got my tone, and I can either play on the headphones, or I can play through the cab, or I can send it through Logic to have a little jam. So it's really one-stop shop. If it's on my desk, I don't need any pedal chain. Now, complementing the Kemper Profiler player is the Footswitch. It connects to the Kemper Profiler through the Ethernet, power over Ethernet over here. It's also got the same great bubble tuner everyone seems to rave about. It's also got way too many buttons. So truth be told, Xile on stage actually only uses one tone and we don't switch tones. So that's why this worked really well for us, because we just turn up on stage, we'd turn it on, set the volumes. If we're playing with cabs, set the cab volume, just go from there. So I know plenty of people who rely on these and have like all of the buttons like decked out, you know what I mean? But one trick ponies over here. Another thing about this Footswitch is it's actually really heavy. It's like 3 kgs. It's made really solidly, which I suppose you'd need for a touring band, but it's over half of the weight of the Kemper Profiler powered version. It's like almost 3 kgs, and this is 5. So, but built really well, and a whole lot of people who use them. One of the best features of this is actually the noise gate. So if you're running 5150s and you're playing real meathead music like we are, you probably got one of those little Boss NS2s, and it's the classic decay down, threshold to the max. And I'd always find that actually does work really good for pauses and playing really snappy riffs, but it would really suck for pinch harmonics. And one of the awesome things about the noise gate on this is it really lets through pinch harmonics while keeping your whole rig silent. So even when the cab is turned all the way up to stage volume, this thing is quiet. It's not like a valve head where it's humming and buzzing like a 5150, and as soon as you play, boom, explosive. And the gates really nicely and really lets those pinch harmonics sing through. So that's something I really noticed about this unit, is the noise gate. Heading back to the front, there are actually a couple really annoying things. To see all these buttons, we'd actually take all of these profiling buttons off. And I actually took a few other buttons off while we were on tour too, because if you bump something, you know, you don't really know what you've bumped. And there's so many menus. This thing can do so many things. It's far beyond really what I've used it for all years, even though it's done what I've needed it to do perfectly. But there's sometimes I feel like if you bump something, you've really got no idea what you've done unless you are looking at it or you know what menu you were in. And that is a little bit of the danger of it. Is I wish it kind of had a setting, or they release like a Kemper rack, like a live mode. This is really a jack of all trades, a profiler, the live, the performances. It does everything, but it can get really confusing on the front panel. You can get lost, you're not sure exactly what things do. Like, this is the Kemper powered version, right? Like, if they can put a power amp in this one, why is there not a dedicated power volume? Why do I need to go to outputs to page 8 to turn up the volume? If this was the powered version, I should have a powered like knob on the front. So that's really the only thing that I would change about this, because I know they can't change much about this, but I do think one thing that would be easily changed, or maybe you could program one of these buttons here that don't ever get used to be your cab volume. That's my one suggestion, Kemper. Another big thing you got to know about these is they take almost a minute to turn on. So when you turn it off, you turn it on, it takes about a minute to load. And this can be really sketchy if you're in a live scenario and someone kicks out your amp. So I can think of one funny recorded instance, I'm going to put this up now, of when we went to Malaysia and Sabian was filling in for us, and his Kemper must have got kicked out by somebody. Everyone's on the side of stage over there, and we're playing the 369 intro, and I'm pretty sure it goes for exactly a minute, and it got kicked out right at the start. So he was feeding back at the start, and then when when Jai went to go play the drums, his Kemper cut out, and you see him turn around, he goes to turn it back on, and he knows, obviously, because he had these, I learnt about these from him, so he knows how long they take to turn on. So he was just vibing on stage until it come on, and perfect timing, it turns on like a minute later, and we're ready to start the first song. So you got to be wary of that. So especially if you're using this without pedals on the ground and you notice that one click over is the tuner, then that next click over, say if you're live and you're all sweaty and you go to snap that thing back, if you go over to power and accidentally turn it off, you're looking at a minute to turn it back on. But no big deal, no big deal. Like I said, most of the people that I saw these, they actually had these racked up on the side of stage and no one touches them. The Footswitch goes out onto the stage and they control their Kemper from here. But for us, we had these on top of cabs most of the time. It was right on stage with us, is what I'm trying to say. Now, like I said, I've been using these for 5 years. Why am I getting rid of it? Well, it is just a little bit too big, and I didn't really want to move from Kemper because I'd invested so much in them. A lot of my friends still use them. The community was really good. The product was really good. And I didn't really want to leave because the tones were so good. And then they released the Kemper stage and it was still too big. Wasn't really keen to sacrifice the power amp taking out of that. And it also had too many buttons. I looked at that thing and it was almost as big as this is, only a little bit thinner, but also a little bit more awkward. It has to sit on the stage. And when they released this, the Kemper Player, I knew that this was for us. So a couple of things on here, it only has 3 switches, so like I said, we only use 1 tone, but I mean, we would use a couple, I could see how we could use like 3 tones in our like hardcore set, or at least 1, like a higher distortion, maybe during the end of like World Demise where there's all the pinch harmonics. I know I said the gate was really good on this, but I mean, if you could turn the gate off and have a really filthy sound, that would be an awesome option. And it's got XLR output on the back and 2 TS's out there. So we can send 1 to the front of house with a cab simulation, 1 comes out without a cab simulation to a Seymour Duncan Power Stage 170, and then the other one goes out to our in-ears with a cab simulation. So with the Kemper Profiler Player, I'm actually really looking forward to using these. You've got 2 banks of 5 channels. I'm pretty sure you can put more in there. It connects to an app using Wi-Fi, or you've got actually tactile buttons over here. So you've got gain, you hold that down for the noise gate, your bass, middle, treble, your main selection channels over here, master volume, and then it also connects with Bluetooth. So if you want to play a song, say on Spotify, or it's on your phone and you want to play along to it using the headphone output, you can do that too. So really looking forward to having this on my desk. Obviously I use the tuner. You can set up these little lights over here as the tuner, but I'm not a big fan of the strobe tuner. I prefer the bubble tuner. Maybe that's a setting that will come out. But yeah, for now, this is the future of the rig. You say, well, we move over to this, we're losing out on the power amp, right? Well, we've got a smaller form factor, and we're going to use the Seymour Duncan Power Stage 170s, and we're going to take those on tour, depending on if it's a silent stage tour, then we can leave it at home, or if it's a live stage tour, we can take those on tour and make a nice little pedal board. So in our pedal chain will be the Kemper Profiler Player, Seymour Duncan Power Stage 170 with the Shure GLXD wireless and tuner, and that'll be the whole chain. And all 3 of us, well, I'm the singer actually, but the 3 guys, the guitarist, bassist, all be running the same Kemper Profiler Player, Seymour Duncan 170, and the Shure thing. And then we should be able to fit 3 pedal boards. If you're looking at the skinniness of this and the same length, we should be able to fit 3 pedal boards in the same case that 1 Kemper rack unit goes in. So I'm looking forward to that. So follow the channel if you want to see us build that. Let's talk about competitors for a little bit. So competitors to moving on from the Kemper Profiler Rack, there's the Line 6 Helix Stomp. Line 6 Helix Stomp. I've seen a couple of those around. I don't think it's as a premium product as the Kemper. I know that it's only got TS outputs as well, which really put me off. So you'd have to have a whole lot of quote-unquote dongles, you know, TS to XLR if you wanted to send something to front of house. And it also has the outputs coming out the side and out the top. And I've seen a few people's pedal boards where it just kind of looks really messy. Now the other big competitor, I can hear you guys screaming, is the Quad Cortex. So you see a whole lot of people running redundant Quad Cortexes, right? All your favorite bands. And they do look cool. I mean, they look cool. And anyone who's done a review on one, or any band that I know that's using one, has got one for free. And not only one for free, they've got 2 each for free. So that company did a big promotion to get their product out there, and they gave a whole lot of these artists for free. So anyone that you see that's doing a rig rundown that has 2 Quad Cortexes, that's from a big band, and they've got 2 Quad Cortexes per member, they've got those things for free. And the reason that I kind of say that is you see a lot of those, and when you go look at the price of them, they're about $5,000. Well, they are here in New Zealand anyway. And it's just unobtainable. So this is $1,000. Funny enough, it's actually $1,030, and the taxable import from New Zealand is, if anything's over $1,000, you get tax on it. So if you bring one of these into New Zealand, it's $30 more expensive than the $1,000 threshold, and you end up getting charged $250 in tax. So it's about $1,300 landed. So that's really awesome. And if you know anything about the prices of music gear in New Zealand, you know that these can range from about 5,000 to 7,000 new. So luckily enough, I managed to get all 3 of the ones I brought secondhand, either from eBay, Reverb, or I even got one off my friend Ben in Hearts Wake. He hooked me up, and I paid around about $2,500 to $3,000, not $3,000, but about $2,500 to $2,800 for each one of these. And they've actually gone down a lot in value. So the reason I'm making this video is saying goodbye to the Kemper Rack. These are kind of old now, and they still go hard forever. They're just big. They still send out updates. Like, I've had probably 2 updates this year. When I plugged this in just before, it asked me for another update. So Kemper's really good at keeping on top of giving people with especially Mac and OS updates. I think that's really awesome. And would I buy one again? And the answer is yes, but I would only buy one for my studio setup. So on my desk, I really loved having this racked next to my computer, and underneath I had this little PV box, and right next to it I had my interface, had it facing towards me. I turn it on, I could switch in between the tuner and my amps, and it was just really handy to have it there and have something that was so solid and sounded so good. And I didn't have to worry about any tuners or any pedals on the ground, and I could route everything out the back of it through the multiple outputs that are on the back of this into my interface, out into the thing. So it looks really clean on a desk. So that's the only way that I would buy it again. If these Kemper Profiler players turn out to be not as good as they are, then that's probably not going to happen. But if it ever did, I would go back to the Kemper Profiler Powered Rack. All right, I know I was real passionate about that Quad Cortex stuff, but when I saw everyone using it and I saw all the reviews, because I watch a lot of reviews online and I'm really into the gear space, and when I went and saw the price of them, and when I went and saw these reviews of big bands using 2 of them as like a quote-unquote redundancy, which is kind of weird because they're already saying that, hey, there's a likelihood of this breaking, I'm going to give you guys 2. I just think it's odd. So no hate on Quad Cortex, I'm just saying it's a bit out of reach for most people to run that really cool redundant dual Quad Cortex setup. It also doesn't have a power amp like these Kemper ones do too. All right, let's run a little timer on how long it takes to turn on. You can see that little bar loading at the bottom. Come on, brother. Tell you what, while I'm here, true story, Arnold Schwarzenegger wore this watch in Predator and Commando. This is the Arnold Schwarzenegger Predator and Commando movie watch. Obviously not the one he owned, just the one, same model. 54 seconds, 3/4 there. Oh, and it's on, ready to go. So that was like 1 minute exactly. And it also takes a little bit of time to turn off, funnily enough. So you're shutting down, little bar. 5 seconds to turn off. 10 seconds, whatever. So not a big deal there. Not a big deal at all, really. So one thing, when you get these Kemper racks, you obviously need to rack them. So if you've got it in your studio, you can put it in a rack, or if you're going to take these on tour, they need to be in some kind of rack. So I've got two setups. One of them is just like my little band practice setup, and the other one is the full touring setup, which goes into SKB 3 size rack, shallow depth rack, I series. And for a little while we had all the Kempers separate in there, and then when we headed over to Europe, I brought a big Pelican and I put two Kempers in one of them. And that's actually in my rig rundown as well, which is down in the links below. I'm going to switch this off and I'm going to show you some of the outputs on the back. So let's take a look at all of the outputs on the back of the Kemper. Actually, no, I'm only going to run through the ones that I use. So first up, we've got the output to the speaker over here. It's just a little TS jack. The two XLRs you see over here, one of those goes to the front of house with a cab sim. The other one goes to our in-ear monitor rig with a cab sim too. Power IEC over here, your regular jug cord. And then when I was setting this up to go into my interface when I was jamming, I just used the monitor out. And the reason I'd use the monitor out instead of the other outs is one, it's TS, and I had my own volume control. So when I turn this up on stage, none of my live stage settings coming out of these two outputs were changed. And then obviously the Type B USB over here, which you can use to plug in to Rig Manager on your computer. All these other ones, they do bits and pieces, and that's for you to figure out. This is the perfect Kemper Profiler Power Rack touring setup. That was a mouthful. Starting off with the SKB I Series 3RU shallow depth rack. Pull the Kemper out of here, we've got the Kemper in here. And then in the bottom, we've got the Profiler remote, the Ethernet cord, and the jug cord, all at a whopping 15 kgs. Now I'll tell you why this is great. So we've got three of these. We've taken these all around the world, Japan, UK, Europe, Australia, Southeast Asia, and all through New Zealand as well, of course. So on the back here, you've got enough room to either run a rack, a separate panel if you want to, but this whole time we haven't ran a panel. You've got easy access to your jug cord, all your outs. You've got an alternate input in the back over here as well. So what we'd commonly do, this is a powered version, so you've got your cabinet out, you've got your cabinet power out over here. These two XLRs, one of those would go with this cab sim to the front of house, the other one would go with the cab sim to our in-ears, and that would be it really for our live setup. One other cool thing about this system is that the SKB racks are all stackable. So you see on the top they've got some indents, on the bottom there's some feet as well, and they all stack on top of each other. So like I said, we've got a couple of these, we've got two Kempers that are in this style, and then we've also got an IEM rack that's on an SKB 4RU, and that makes this big tower that all stacks on top of each other, and that's part of the Xile rig rundown, which I'll put a link down below, and you can check that out. This whole thing weighs 15 kgs, easily flyable. In the bottom you can only really fit the Kemper Profiler remote, the Ethernet cord, and the jug cord, plus another, maybe an instrument cable. So if you had tuners and pedals, you can chuck those in your guitar case like our guys do. This is light, this is durable. We've taken it around the world and tested it. This is the best Kemper Profiler Power Rack touring setup, in my opinion. All right, here goes one I prepared earlier. It has done the hard yards. Still got its flight ticket on it. Where did this thing go to? Auckland, back from Sydney. And yeah, this one would honestly be about 5 years old, and it keeps going strong. So while I've actually replaced the wheels on some Pelican Air units, nothing is ever broken on an SKB. True story. Let's finish this video off with a little jam. So obviously I wouldn't usually put the speaker on top of the Kemper like this, but looks good in the video. Plug it in on the speaker-on. All right, first thing you gotta know about the solid state stuff is you really gotta make sure the volume is all the way down. And one of the annoying things about the Kemper, what I was talking about before, I wish it had a volume knob on the front. You can't really check if your cab volume is all the way down, and I don't want to touch my master volume or my rig volume because it's going to affect the levels that's already gone to front of house, and it's going to affect the levels in my in-ears. Maybe that's just sitting inside here that I don't know about, but this is what I like to do. So it's unplugged. I go over to the output page. Oh, it's already there. I'm going to go to page 10 is the power amp on. volume all the way down. Then I'm going to plug it in. All right, we're going to make Lance Prince proud right now. Last time I sent him a single, I couldn't do a rake properly. We've got the EMG 81 inside the ESP M1, drop A. Let's head back over to the tuner. Oh, it's in B. It's in drop B, because I was jamming with a mate in drop B. All right, you can see that was just like a little bit of volume and it was straight up there. See how sharp that gates? Thanks for watching my Kemper review video. This thing is awesome, and I'm kind of sad to see it go because it went so well, but I'm also looking forward to dropping how big it is, having a much smaller rig, like I said, having those 3 pedal boards, those Kemper Profiler Players, all next to each other in that same size SKB that one of these would fit in. So really looking forward to that. I hope I see this Kemper Profiler Player Powered Rack again in my studio setup. Because like I said, it does really well. So if you see one of these going secondhand and you want to try it out, I recommend picking one up. I will say though, that if you pick up an unpowered one, it's not as versatile as a powered one. So a powered one is so much more versatile for me and for someone who plays in a live band. Like if you're expecting to gig this and you want it to do everything, then pick up a powered version because it's going to be good enough for stage, it's going to be good enough for the studio, and it's going to do everything you need, even if you want to use that profiler function. And when you finally figure out that profiler function, chuck a comment chuck a comment down below because I'd love to know how it works. I tell you what's really cool actually, and what everyone should get, is one of these little 1-speaker cabinets for your desk. They look sick. I think it's not a full-size one, it's a 1 size 8. They look awesome, especially if they're new. You know, like as soon as someone thinks of like putting a cabinet on your desk, you're thinking about that old, ragged house cabinet at your local venue, and you don't want it, you don't want it on your desk. But if you buy something brand new like this, see, it's all nice and shiny, it actually looks really cool on your desk, and it goes quite loud. I will say, it is a little bit tinny, but it's a really cool addition to the desk. See you guys next time. All right, if you want to support this channel, you can by heading over to my band's web store. Pick up a t-shirt. I will throw a sticker pack in there. Got like 10 different stickers in there if you want to check out my music. I've just moved to the UK from New Zealand to follow my dreams as a touring musician. And we'll be doing that all next year through Europe and the UK. So from the Europe and UK, and you want to see my band Xile, I'll put the link down below to our music. Come out and see us at a gig. All right, guys. See you on the next video. Oh, scrunch this notes up to see if I'd forgotten anything. No, that's all. See you on the next video. Like and subscribe.